Hello there, my name is Fox Highwind, and I'll be attempting today to teach you the basics of the card game I'm designing. This particular match is going to be the Lancer versus the Pyromage. Now, the game is separated into two main portions: the cards themselves and the heroes that have a very strong impact upon the game. For example, this Lancer hero will have the abilities of Relentless Assault, which gives all of their red attack cards the ability to draw one afterwards, and their ability Aerial Maneuver, which gives their jump card, which I don't currently have, an additional damage at the end, specifically plus 3 damage. The Fire Mage, however, has two important things. One, they do start off with their hand size being at measly 5, but they get plus 1 hand size per persist card, the green cards, that they have in play at the beginning of the turn. In addition, there's also the ability to deal damage at the end of the turn equal to the amount of green persist cards they have in play. Now, the cards themselves come in 4 varieties. Red is attack. It's a very simple card. You pay its cost, which is in the top right corner, and you deal damage equal to the little blue bubble here, plus any additional modifiers, and also make sure to read the card's effect, because they often have additional modifiers. Green cards are the opposite of attacks. Instead, they typically have no immediate effect, but they do come into play with a number of charge counters equal to their little blue bubble. And as long as they are in play, as long as they still have their charge counters on them, their effects are instantaneous to the board. So this one would be plus 1 damage, one of those modifiers I was warning you about. Blue cards are essentially attacks that have no actual attack value. They never do damage unless otherwise stated, and are simply here to get their effects. Once again, they have you could pay their cost, you do their effect, and never any attack value. And finally, the relics are essentially like the persist cards, only where persist cards normally go down at the end of each turn. Say Gugner here will only go down whenever it states, which is in this case reduce whenever you take any damage. Simple enough. Alright, so to begin the game, we need to know who goes first, and that's based off of the bottom card's cost. With Ignition costing 2 and Jump costing 3, the Lancer, wins. So, they get first turn, and they get to choose what goes first. Very first thing that I want to do is get this Gugner out, because it is easily one of the strongest cards in the Lancer's arsenal. Because the additional damage per card that you play this turn is massive. So to do that, I'm going to have to discard 2 cards here. Airship Barrage is a finisher, and Pentathrust won't be seeing play this turn. Next up, I will play out... This is actually a little bit of a hard one. I think I'll go ahead and play out the Ambush, discarding the Blood of the Dragon for it. It gets plus 2 damage if this is the first attack you played this turn, which it is. So, 2 damage, and then it's 1 base, and we are a Dragoon, so we draw a card. Next up will be Jab. It has 1 damage, but no cost. And because we're Lancer, we draw a card. Then finally, this hand is pretty bad, so I'm going to go ahead and end my turn. And at the end of the turn, before the end of the turn effects go off, I can go ahead and discard any number of cards in my hand. And I'll go ahead and choose all 3. Because at the beginning of your turn, you draw up to your maximum hand size. And then 2 attack cards were played this turn, so 2 more points of damage. Now let's see what the Fire Mage can do. not such a great opener for the Fire Mage here, but one thing we can do is we can cast Blazing Speed, which reduces the cost of all fire cards by 1. But it will only last until for this turn. So we need to give it some ignition, discarding only the Pyroclasm, as it costs 1 because of the reduced cost here. Increase the persist of all cards by 1, bringing it up to 2. And then these two aren't exactly amazing, so I'll end this by discarding them. Alright, so beginning of the turn, we remove a counter from all persist cards, but we only have a relic in play, so no damage. Oh, I'm sorry. There was a persist card at the play for the Fire Mage's end of turn, so they get to deal 1 point of damage to the Lancer. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now let's see what the Lancer can do. Ooh, a nice one. Slice and dice. All skill attacks get +1, or getting draw 1. So we'll be discarding that, as we want as many draws as possible. So we'll open up with a ambush, discarding 1. It's the first attack we played, so it gets its +2 damage. And then we draw 1 for Lancer, and we draw 1 for Slice and Dice. Now we'll play out a jab, dealing 1 damage, and drawing 1 for Lancer, and 1 for Slice and Dice. A second jab, and once again, 1 for Lancer, 1 for Slice and Dice. We'll play out this ambush, and trade out one of this cards for its cost. No additional damage, but we draw 1 for Slice and Dice and 1 for Lancer. That's right. And then Pentathrust here costs 1 less per attack played this turn. 4 attacks means -4, so it does its 5 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 for Lancer and 1 for Slice and Dice. Let's see. I believe at this point we'll attempt a Grace, which lets me discard this card, essentially removing 2 cards from my hand to draw 2 cards. Then we have an Ambush, which deals this 1 damage, and I do have to discard a card for this. Dreadworm's Plate is a good one to do that. And 1 for Lancer and 1 for Slice and Dice, effectively making me draw my entire hand. So we'll do 1 last jab, and I will go ahead and equip the Dreadworm Plate by discarding out these 3, putting 3 persist counters on it, so every time I take damage, as per its effect, it will reduce 1 of its counters, and then it will also reduce that damage by 2. So that's the end of my turn. I'll go ahead and discard this other Dreadworm Plate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage has been dealt, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage has been dealt to the Fire Mage. Fire Mage is looking pretty poor, as they had a bad turn, and the Lancer had a great turn. Oh, this is still in play. Forgot to put a counter on it at the beginning. Let's see what the Fire Mage can do. So, very first thing, before I even draw, first you draw 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 1 more for the number of persist cards it has, and then reduce all the persist cards in play. Now let's see. Here's some of the cards we wanted to see. Blazing Speed. Reduces the cost of all fire cards by 1. So we do that, and we'll discard one of our duplicate conflagrations, and now it's going to be in play, reducing the effects of all the extra ones we have. Which, by the way, here's Blazing Speed. It's free. And then these volcanic blooms become free. And they have 2 persist counters on them. And conflagration here costs 1 less for every persist card I have in play, and then 2 less, so it technically costs -2, but we don't actually get any mana for it. So it does 3 damage, plus 2, so 5 damage, but minus 2 from the Dreadworm Plate, so only does 3 damage. Not amazing. Also, Gugnar's effect also says whenever it dealt damage, reduce a resist counter on it. Not amazing. But at the end of the turn, 5 persist cards, 5 damage. Now at this point, you're probably looking at it and saying, Fire Mage is dead. But with no cards left to draw, the Lancer draws his main cards up to his hand size as he can, so 0. Persist cards count down. And the Lancer has nothing to do. So he can do something that we call take a breather, which would be shuffle all the cards in hand, which he currently doesn't have, and to his discard pile, and just shuffle the discard pile into the deck, creating a new deck. Alright. And there's a fresh deck for him to play next turn. So, Fire Mage still has a little bit left in there. So, first things first, Blazing Speeds all die. That's unfortunate. But actually, I'm sorry, I said first things first, but first things first, they draw cards. 2, 3, 4, 5 for their natural hand, 3 Blazing Speeds, 2, 3, and 2 Volcanic Blooms. So yeah, massive hand this time. Hopefully something will be in there. Let's see. Nothing really amazing. Fire Mage looks dead, but let's see what happens. So first things first. Which one it should be first? I'm going to go ahead. Oop. Right. Volcanic Bloom. Go up. Oh, forgot to reduce this gap by 1. And -1. -2 cards. Now, normally these ignitions are really great, but unfortunately all the burning speeds have died. So, we'll go ahead and play out a fireball. Well, play out this fireball. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. I don't know what this game's doing. So Fireball deals 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then, unfortunately, this will be the end of the Fire Mage's turn. So we can go ahead and discard that. And take the 3 extra damage. So I mean, that was a decent chunk. You can see where the Fire Mage would be if they actually were able to play. Oh, I'm sorry. 3 damage is reduced by the Dreadworm Plate from the end of the turn, and then 3 more damage from that fireball. Alright, so fully 4 damage, but the Lancer can whiff on this. Not likely with 7 cards. 7 cards. Oh, that's the deck. I bet. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, okay, I drew 1 to me. Yep. And with jab and jab, dealing 2 damage each, drawing 2 cards, ending the turn, Gugnar does 2 points of damage. And that will be that. Fire Mage has been defeated. Alright. Well, I hope you liked my little tutorial, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.